Hi, I'm Derek, and welcome to Fun Scale Models. In this video, I'll be showing you how to build the latest design that we have. It's a park-sized P63 Kingcobra. The model has a wingspan of about 30 inches, weighs close to 9 ounces, and is powered by a 24-gram motor. Some of the features on this include plug-in landing gear, a flat sheet canopy, which will show you how to do that process, and printed tissue. So let's see how the model is built.
So in this picture you can see the main look of the plans. This is of course the prototype plans, and the production might have some additional detail or subtle changes on it. The plans will be offered with the part sheets on them, so you can hand cut your own parts, or if you want you can also get them laser cut. The airplane is primarily built out of 3/32 balsa wood. There is some 1/16 balsa wood in there, as well as some light 1/8 ply. To power the motor, as previously mentioned, you're going to need a 24-gram motor, powering that with a 10 to 12 amp ESC. The model will fly on a 2-cell 450 to 600 milliamp pack. You will need 4.3 to 5 gram servos. Start the construction out with the horizontal. There are several parts that you will have to either cut or identify in the laser cut parts, as well as some 3/32 stringers that you will be needing to glue to those parts. One feature about this model is the horizontal and elevator separation point is marked for you if you get the laser cut parts. You would simply cut along those marked lines and hinge later with CA hinges. The vertical is also very similar in construction. Standard parts already etched for you again if you have the laser cut, as well as you would hinge with CA hinges. Here you can see the fuselage keel has been laid out, several parts here. Also note that there is a keel part at the front where the motor would be. This is there just to help with the early construction and is removed later. In this picture here, you will see some of the formers, and there's some interesting notations on this. On F6, you'll see an L shape with another dash above it. Those are already pre-cut lines in the laser parts. These sections will be removed later. There's also some subformers that need to be glued to F6 and F8. These are helping to mount the wing saddle later. Here you can see some of the left hand of the fuselage formers have been glued to the fuse. One trick that I like to use is to put pins directly on the back side of the former that you're intending to glue to the airframe, and it allows you to push a 90-degree triangle right up against it, so it keeps and sort of traps the former and not allowing it to move around. It makes it much easier for gluing together. This former here is quite thin at the bottom right corner, so I ended up adding some scrap 3/32 stringer to add some rigidity. In this picture here, most of the fuselage left-hand formers have been added. Again, another view of the front of the airplane. In this picture here, you can see a couple of lines in the bottom keel that we'll talk about a little bit more later. You can also see some additional pre-cut sections on the formers in this shot. In this picture, we're starting to add the 3/32 square balsa wood stringers. The P63 has quite the sharp nose, and it is possible to bend the stringers to match it, but it does put a lot of stress on the airframe. One solution I came up with is the piggyback method. Here you can see the stringer is slightly above the forwardmost former. Underneath it is a scrap piece of stringer. When this is removed from the board, it will be trimmed up, and then the top stringer will be blended into the former, making it look like it's one solid stringer. Here we see the tail end of the stringer. I have also added a scrap piece on the top rear of K4. This allows all the other stringers to butt into it and makes it a much cleaner trailing edge of your fuselage. Some additional stringers have been added in this picture. You can also see some of the details in the lower left-hand corner around how to make the plug-in landing gear. And again, a step back looking at the fuselage overall. In this picture, you can see that the wing saddle has been added. This piece exterior has been sprayed with window cleaner, and the ammonia in that helps it be a little bit more pliable as well as curved to match those subformers that you added earlier. Here is the fuselage removed from the building board. As mentioned earlier, the model does have the option for plug-in landing gear. If you choose this option, then what you will need to do is to obtain some brass tubing. The outer brass tubing is 0.14, the inner is 0.11, and there's also a rod of 1/16 wire that is used for the strut itself. Here you can see that there are some parts created to help box in the mounting part for the plug-in landing gear. With the fuselage half removed from the board, it's time to prepare for the other half. Now's a good time to choose your motor, prop, and spinner combination. Here you can see the motor I plan on using in the prototype. I also have a 3D printed spinner from Rabbit Models. Once you have your spinner, prop, and motor combo identified, it helps you to ensure there's a nice tight fit between the back plate and the front of the fuselage. There's also included a firewall spacer to assist with this. In this photo, you can see the right half of F3, as well as the additional firewall support and the motor mount of the motor. To ensure proper cooling for the motor, this model features a ducting system. In this picture here, you can see several of the templates, including the ducting. Here in this picture, the ducting has been folded and glued in place. This should allow for plenty of airflow through and past the motor, exiting on the bottom of the fuselage just forward of the wing. Before adding the stringers to the other half, now's a good time to install the magnets that hold the hatch in place. These are 1/8 in diameter and 3/32 in depth. There's one forward and one aft. Focusing on the hatch next, I made the upper and lower hatch rails from 3/32 by 1/4 inch wide balsa. I glued the lower hatch rail in first and used tape to help protect it from being glued accidentally to the upper hatch rail. I added the subformers, which are F5A, F7A, F6B, and F6C, to the model. Then I also added the upper hatch rail and the 1/16 square framing for the canopy. Once this was all in place the way that I wanted it, I added some quick CA to glue it all in place. To help protect the formers when sanding, I used a small scrap piece of masking tape, and then I used a small sanding block to blend the hatch rails to match the fuselage. This concluded the main construction on the fuselage. In the next video, we'll go over how to construct the wing.